my name is Ronnie Nell, and this is episode 2 of Artists, Makers, and Neighbors. In the first episode, we talked about the history of the Philly art scene. In this episode, we'll dive into our own history and how we've progressed into the 21st century. In 1931, Da Vinci Art Alliance was started in South Philadelphia by 16 Italian immigrants who had been shut out of the professional Philadelphia art scene. In response, they created their own space to share their art, skills, and resources. In the 60s, they moved into 704 Catherine Street, which has been DVAA's home ever since. Since then, we've been continuing the vision of our founders, building community through art. However, it's never been easy. By the 90s, Da Vinci Art Alliance needed rehabilitation, both structurally and organizationally. As told by some of our community members, here's how artists revolutionized DVAA.
I think the biggest influence on our generation is probably Catherine Pennypacker, which we have a fellowship named after her. She's still a very influential member of the social practice art community in Philly. So Catherine was renting out a space in the gallery back in the 90s. And at the time, Da Vinci, I'm pretty sure that's when the roof had caved in and they just weren't using part of the third floor. And Catherine came in and revitalized the space. So no one was using the gallery space anymore. There were just a couple of people that rented out the building for studios.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you do, your background in art, and then your connection to Da Vinci?
Sure. So I am a visual artist, a textile artist. I work a lot with string and yarn and this and that. I also paint wall murals in Philadelphia. I work a lot in the community. And my connection to Da Vinci goes sort of back a way, and that's what's so beautiful about having the invitation to be here because I was just sort of fresh out of traveling a bunch and school and this and that, and I was trying to create a life for myself as an artist. And so, I lived in South Philly, to answer your question, and I was trying to find the community, trying to find a studio, trying to just create my life as a working artist. And I lived on Christian Street for a couple of years, and then I heard about a studio gallery space on Catherine Street, and I was what's that about, So I literally walked in, and it was this sleepy little place, and that would have been around, I was trying to figure out the dates, when I was walking here. It was probably around 97, something like that. And so when I got the sense that not much was happening, it was really sleepy. I mean, literally in the one back room, they were a couple old Italian guys would meet and do the taxes and play cards once a month and do the books for Da Vinci. And there was occasional exhibits happening. This other guy, Giuseppe, had a studio on the second floor down here. Mm-hmm. So anyway, long story short, I ended up rented a studio space, and then when I saw that not much was going on in the gallery, I was can I help to get this place going again? Because I had other artist friends in the neighborhood, totally. So we were trying to we just dreamed how about what could we do, So long story short, it was just a bunch of brainstorming and creating and projects and gallery openings.
Before we did this interview, Sam was kind of talking about you a little bit to me, just to give me a little more personal background. And the way they described it was that you were one of the people who really reinvigorated the space.
Yeah.
And it was almost Da Vinci was in this slump, and it's okay, we have this space, we know of these artists, let's make something happen, which is really cool.
That's what it was like. But it was 97, 98, 99, or 98, 99, whatever, about three and a half years, and I ended up having a studio, and I lived up here at one point, pretty soon after I moved in, or took the studio. And so it was just this fun happening,
Yeah, that sounds really inspiring and cool.
It was okay, there were so many artists in South Philly, right? So it was just when you kind of happen upon a sleepy space that had exhibits,
Mm-hmm.
was open but just kind of sleepy,
Totally.
you just see like all this possibility.
I'm Bill Brookover. I am a printmaker, teaching artist at Fleischer Art Memorial, and on the exhibitions committee here at Da Vinci, and member since 2016,
Awesome.
2015, maybe older.
You got into printmaking through Fleischer.
I did.
What brought you to Da Vinci?
Eventually, I think it was Linda Dubin Garfield.
The infamous.
So I was aware of Da Vinci. I started taking classes at Fleischer probably in the late 90s. So I took drawing and watercolor classes. And I knew Da Vinci was here across the street, and I would come in occasionally and look at shows, and it was just not a place I thought I needed to be involved in.
Mm.
It's by the whatever we call that decade, the 2010s.
Yeah.
It seemed like things were getting really interesting, and there were shows being put on that I could apply to. So I think one was a photography show, but it just seemed like, things are popping over there. I had been looking for a sort of an art community that I could attach myself to. I'd been showing it at Mount Airy Art Garage, and I was really glad that Da Vinci seemed to be offering a home much closer to me, and I'm still involved at Fleischer across the street because I'm in this neighborhood quite a bit.
Right.
So this was great. So that's kind of how I found you.
My name is Linda Dubin Garfield. I'm a printmaker and mixed media artist. I've been a member since 2006-07, sometime around then. Not a very active member in the beginning, but later I became president of the board. I was a board member briefly and then president of the board for I think 7 years. And I'm just going off the board and will become part of the advisory board in September.
What drew you in to be such an active member and be like the president and be a board member for so long? Was there anything, it just happened naturally, or was it something that really drew you to become like a leader within the organization?
There was like a little lull in the leadership in, I forget exactly, like maybe 2012, 2010, 11, 12, something like that. There was a little break, and there was no board functioning for a while. So another friend of mine and I said, let's activate the board. And then I met David Acosta again. When we bumped into him, we asked him out to lunch, and he said he lived in South Philly, and I said, oh, why don't you be on our board? So he did. He said yes. And then he came to the first board meeting, and there was like a little problem. So, and it was a conflict, and we didn't know how to resolve it. And somebody said, after an hour, if we don't do something different, we're going to be back here in a month. So I whispered to him, if I say I'll be the president, will you be the vice president? And he said yes. So I said, I have an idea. Why don't I be the president? He'll be the vice president. You'll be a member at large. We'll all work together. It'll be great. Everybody said yes, and we did it.
You know, it's so funny when you're telling this story because, like, a lot of it was just out of need, and you're a natural leader, it sounds like, and that's really cool. So that's awesome.
So it worked
It's meant
out.
to be.
So I say the best thing I did for this organization, I got David involved, I hired Jared, and I was involved in hiring Sam. So that's my legacy, and I'm very proud of it.
3 great
3 wonderful
people. Before, you were saying how kind of when you first came to Da Vinci, it felt like not the space for you. How did it evolve and like bring you in? Because you are an integral part of this community now.
So I guess once I decided to be a member,
Mm-hmm.
then it felt like a great community, and it was easy to get more and more involved. So every artist, we like to think that we just need that gallerist to find us, and they'll promote our art, and then we'll be famous and be able to sell everything as it pops off the easel or off of the printmaking press or whatever. But I think I'm pretty realistic about that's not going to happen for me at this. I'm in the last third of my life, and also it's such a crapshoot about the art world, whatever that is. And so I try, while I have ambitions, I try not to think too much about it because I can't control it. But I do want an art community, and so for me, Da Vinci is, yes, it is a place that I can show my work, but that's not even the top of my list of why I'm involved at Da Vinci. And things, as programs have been added that are just in my wheelhouse.
A cool part about the programs is it's drawing in these like minds, and you can discuss these things that you care about, which is really like ultimately what Da Vinci is kind of about.
Yeah, so I think if it was just a venue to show my work occasionally, I wouldn't be nearly as involved. But I like the feeling that I almost want to call it a cooperative, or a commune, or a cell or something. We have paid staff, thank you, but we have members, and it's really driven by what the members say they want to do and show up to do. And as a member, I feel totally empowered, like if we want to fix the garden up, well, let's just fix up the garden. We are actually in charge.
I think that's interesting you say that, because working here, from my point of view, we're kind of just here for you guys. Like, it's literally the whole job is how can we make the members happy and be more involved and we want everyone to be able to show their work, and it's really cool because it is kind of like we're almost this, you tell us what we need, what you need, and we do our best to make it happen. And I think it's like really, and like so many members have so much agency and really do work so hard for Da Vinci, and like it wouldn't run without.
Well, and what I think another aspect of that is it's not a for-profit organization. You're not here the way a gallerist is to sell and promote an artist's work. And in the best of all worlds, the gallerist really loves and believes in their artist, and so they're going to do what a lot for the artist. In the worst, it's I can only talk to you if I'm making money off of you. So that is a very transactional situation, and it's driven by capitalist economy, where this is to enjoy making art and build a community and get to know each other and share common goals and ideas.
So just to give you a little background of where I came from,
Sure.
I lived in Vermont for 30 years. I finished my undergrad work at the San Francisco Art Institute and followed my now ex-husband to Vermont, thinking, I was in my 20s, thinking, this will be great. I can just leave school behind and, be on my own, do what I want to do. And it very quickly got very isolating, especially back in the 80s in Vermont. There was not a lot of visual art going on. And then I became a mother and really was even more isolated. So fast forward to, got divorced, decided to move out of the state, and I moved down to South Jersey to be with my parents, thinking I could start more of a career for myself but where I live in Cape May, New Jersey, it's also very remote. So I came to Philly and ended up meeting Linda Garfield. She's the one that brought me here, said, she saw my work in Liquid and contacted me and said, I think you might like this gallery. And I had been looking for some kind of community because I could not find it, even in Cape May, really. There's a lot of, Sunday painters or landscape painters. And I just was interested in something a little more vital. And so I joined DVAA, and since I've been here in the 4 or 5 years, I've really loved where it's going as far as like expanding into more community, marginalized communities. The fellowships that are going on is really exciting to see the work that people are bringing to that. And again, back to the other question, it's feeding me to see these people thinking a little differently than I might have ever have thought, So I've really been enjoying being on the committee and becoming part of this community.
If you say your name, what you do, and your relationship to Da Vinci.
Yeah, my name is Scout Cartagena. I am a sculptor, printmaker, glassblower, and also an art educator. I am connected to Da Vinci because I was lucky to be a fellow last year.
Last year. Do you remember how you became aware of the fellowship program?
Yeah, so Chelsea Luster, who's a incredible painter,
The best.
Chelsea was doing it and was talking about how great the opportunity was, and I know she's always wanted to do curating, and like that was kind of a big jump off for her, as well as like as an artist herself. We were at Tyler School of Art and Architecture together, and I just heard about this opportunity, thought that was really cool, and then COVID hit. And I lost my senior thesis show that I was supposed to have. Like literally was like a few weeks away from having my own, so nose to the ground. And we all go into the COVID quarantines, and right when things are starting to like figure itself out, and we're still not anywhere close to being back to what people think is normal, which I think will never be.
No.
But to what some semblance of what normal is or what we desire it to be. I saw the opportunity was coming up. Chelsea was talking how great it was, and I was like, it's like local. Maybe I can have a solo show and like be able to like communicate these ideas I've worked 5 years on doing. So it's just like a lot of like planning, and then once I had the planning, I was able to talk about my work and construct it and like kind of have a game plan of timeline, and then talk to the Da Vinci crew and like see like what was realistic and like what measurements were like y'all gave me the measurements and everything, and it made me feel very like what is achievable. And also I feel like the installation I guess skill level of this entire place and the way that y'all run it here is so confident that it makes me feel like if I suggest something that's ridiculous, you'll be like, cool, that sounds great, probably not possible in this way, what can we do to make it happen in a way that still makes you happy? And it was just like very fulfilling. I don't think you're gonna get that opportunity anywhere else, in my opinion, like to be like, I want to do this, and they're just like, okay, I don't think we could knock a hole in the wall and grow flowers out of it, but what can we do to look like that? And I'm like, yay!
That's so good to hear. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, very great group. I feel like it's like almost like a home feeling, a family feeling that I've been working with other like galleries and museums. I just haven't gotten out of them. Like they're all great, but feeling like the work will happen the way that I think I want it to happen in the best way possible. And we're going to talk it out until it feels good. Something like this place is small, been here for forever, but there's so much power in everybody who's in here who like gives like a minute or a second of their time.
Yeah.
And we get to see the work and talk about the work, like be a part of the exhibition committee. It's like almost like paying it forward. It's like I was happy to be here, and like I wish I had been in the room to hear people's thoughts, but it's like people believed in me and they wanted to see what I could do. Now I'm paying it for the next group, and the next group, and the next group, and we're always continuing, and I think that strength is really important. I think a lot of times, like in institutions, like it's the same people who always see new people coming in, and I think, truthfully, you do get pretty jaded, a little biased, and I think having fresh eyes, or I think we're all willing to reach out to the community, like y'all will be like, oh, there's probably a newspaper who'd want to hear about your work. Oh, there's a school who want to come. There's a lawyer who wants to talk about your work. And it's like that continuous outreach and bringing fresh eyes, bringing new voices into it, I think is really special. I'm sad that like there's a lot of places who don't do it. Really big places in the craft world too,
Yeah.
who just, you know, they might pull someone in, but they don't want to continue to hear that voice. You know, they kind of like, oh, come in for your part, you know, because we got you here and that's it. But like here it's like, no, like how have you been? I haven't seen you in months, years. Oh, you're doing this thing. We're so glad you have to. Like we feel like I feel like it's like a responsibility to each other.
Yeah.
To continue these kind of things. So I think that's been pretty cool, and that's probably like the most important special part about this place. And I think that's what drives me to tell anyone who wants to make art, like, have you heard about them? There's a residency, there's a fellowship, you know, I'm like, oh, have you been? There's a show there, you know, I'm like, I'm not here as well as I want to be, but like every email feels great, every text feels good.
Wow.
I hear about things, just like I'm like, I want this place to grow forever.
There's this phrase that is very, very cheesy from Baden-Powell, the founder of the Boy Scouts, that says, leave the world in better conditions than you find it, right? So even the phrase is very, very cheesy, I like it, and I feel like that's what I'm trying to do. I am trying to do something for others that I didn't have.